I'm just getting started.
Jacob Fatu is about to have a breakout year in WWE. His first kind of big singles match is coming up at Saturday night's main event. He's gonna go one-on-one against Braun Strowman. You gotta figure Fatu's gotta just decimate Braun Strowman, isn't he? I like a good monster man match though. This could be some signs of what's to come with Jacob Fatu because, for one, I think Braun Strowman and Bronson Reed, when they were doing their big monster matches, I think Fatu could play a similar role right now, and Braun Strowman is not, to me, is not really a bad choice to have as kind of like a first matchup for singles program for him to be able to showcase what he can do. Like, we're gonna get the moonsault, but I need to see Braun Strowman just get dummied by Fatu. And I say this is his breakout year because he hasn't had many opportunities yet in WWE to really showcase what he can do. Like, we have seen what he can do in the ring. He's scary, he's the werewolf, he's got the really cool moonsault, he loves Solo. There's a lot to like about Jacob Fatu, but there's a big mystery about him. And I thought his promo on SmackDown, where he kind of gave a look to Solo, and there is going to be some tension in there because now Solo, he does not have Ulafala, he is not Tribal Chief. Why would Jacob Fatu or anybody follow him anymore? And I think he's going to take matters in his own hands. So I wanted to go through some opponents of Jacob Fatu. Who do we think he could end up facing in 2025? Whether it's on Raw or SmackDown, but I think there's some big names. And no, I don't expect Fatu to be like world champion by 2025. I'm a little bit of realist here, but I do want to see him in some really cool stuff, cool programs. So first of all, we know that we are going to get this match, Saturday night's main event. I don't think it's going to go beyond that. I would be surprised. I think Fatu needs to make a statement with Braun Strowman. Strowman is huge, and I think that he needs to show how physically dominant he can be. It'll be a good back and forth, but Strowman needs to eat a pin here, and Fatu needs to look very dominant, scary, strong. That's been kind of his whole MO since he came to WWE. He would get hit with anything like from Randy Orton and he just pop back up. And that's the cool thing about Fatu. He just gets back up and he absorbs everything. So outside of Strowman, the obvious name that we want to see with Fatu is going to be against Solo. Now here's a question to you. Leave it in the comments below if you can. Do you think that we could get Fatu and Solo at this year's WrestleMania, or is that too soon? You know that WWE likes to slow burn and slow play a lot of these feuds and matches. Do you think that it's the right time to go super quick? I mean, you do have 3 months to go, and you could tell a lot on weekly TV of Fatu and Solo and the breakdown there because, well, Solo has nothing left. So what is he really fighting for, and does he even have the rest of Bloodline on his side? I think in 3 months' time to WrestleMania, you could tell that story. It'll be interesting though, like if they did it in Mania 41, we did get Jacob Fatu versus Solo Sikoa. Who's cheering for who in this thing? Or is it just like a really cool matchup? And ultimately, I think Jacob comes out ahead of this whole thing because Solo has dug himself such a hole as a character, hasn't he? He's lost everything. He's got no allies anymore. His new bloodline is on the rocks right now. He didn't speak on SmackDown, but you gotta think that everything is gonna come crumbling down. Now, there is the potential in there. You might be sitting there going, hey, dummy, what about Hikuleo? Be like, I don't know. Maybe he's gonna become the right-hand man of Solo. Or he's gonna be the right-hand man of Jacob Fatu, and Fatu leads like an extreme bloodline. The bloodline is getting into like version 3 or 4.0 now, isn't it? I think that they could do it, and by WrestleMania 41, I think you could do the match between Fatu and Solo and have Fatu dominate. I think you need to kind of give him that type of run, that big monster run right now, all the way to Mania 41, so that he can really prove himself and get that spot against Solo. Because another matchup I think we are destined to have is going to be Fatu versus Roman Reigns. Now I think Roman is wrapped up in the title, Cody, Rock, Punk, somebody. Roman's gonna be doing something like that at Mania is my guess. Maybe even Drew McIntyre, you never know. So I think that if you looked at Mania 42, or maybe a SummerSlam, it's a 2-night event, but down the road, I think you could end up getting Fatu and Roman, and that would be a match people would be clamoring to see. You have this, I mean, Roman's character hasn't changed. I was gonna say you have Roman in like a babyface role. He's still the same Roman Reigns, but he has no title, and he's lost a lot of allies. And I think if you keep Jacob Fatu presented as a scary heel, then he could be going on a singles run against Roman, and the program would be great. He's not under the thumb of anybody. He doesn't have Solo's thumb. There's nobody else involved. He just wants to go after Roman Reigns and take down the real tribal chief. And that could be kind of a through line for Fatu throughout the year, is that he is trying to make his way up the ranks and to get to the real tribal chief and do it himself. So I think that either SummerSlam or, I mean, you could do Mania 42 and it could be Jacob Fatu versus Roman. You got to try to get Fatu over. All right, another name, someone he has feuded with and is still, he's not really in the mix with him anymore. Cody Rhodes, though. Cody's all mixed up with Kevin in ladder matches and all this good stuff. And I don't necessarily see, like, I'm talking like a feud. Like, I could see Cody and Fatu having a straight up one-on-one match and that'd be great. But I think you want to tell that proper feud. Like I was saying with Roman, you almost want Fatu to go down the path of like, Solo couldn't get it done against these guys. I'm going to do it myself alone, and proves that he can do it. And you know what? Fatu versus Cody one-on-one is a great match to me because it puts Cody in a more vulnerable position of like, you got this super monster in Jacob. How is he ever going to overcome the odds? And maybe it's like by DQs and things like that. But I think that that kind of story is a good opponent for Cody. Now, would that be in 2025? Possibly, because it depends what happens at Mania with the title. If Cody loses the title at Mania, let's just say to John Cena, then I think you can insert Fatu and you can have the two of them going at it and there's no title involved. All right, next one, he's a man on SmackDown and I absolutely love him. It's your boy LA Knight, yeah. So I think that we are seeing this right now. Strowman, LA Knight is still involved with Bloodline and Fatu is taking out Strowman first. I think it's almost the order of things for Jacob going into the Royal Rumble and beyond. I think he gets through Braun Strowman, and then I think his TV program and opponent for several weeks, even through the Royal Rumble, would be LA Knight. Because LA Knight has been doing that with Nakamura, Andrade, Carmelo, the week-to-week TV opponent. I think that Fatu and LA Knight could have something really good there. Because honestly, I like to see the promos. Jacob Fatu is good on the mic. He's scary on the mic. And we haven't seen, like you said, we haven't seen anything yet. I want to see way more. And I know what LA Knight can bring. And the two of them are so different. And LA Knight doesn't play games with anybody in terms of like, he doesn't lean into them of like their character or anything. He just does his own thing. He ignores what they're all about. So Jacob Fatu is this ultra scary guy and LA Knight just no sells it. So I kind of want to see it. And I think you can have it where like Fatu will beat up on LA Knight. Gets a lot of sympathy for him. Crowd loves LA Knight. Might still be dealing with the bloodline too, where LA Knight's got to take down Tama Tonga and Tongaloa. But I love to see that. I want to see the promos between these two. Now I mentioned Braun Strowman before because obviously they're gonna have their matchup, but I did talk about Bronson Reed, and he is somebody else that I want to see. And I do kind of want to see Bronson Reed when he comes back from injury. Maybe get drafted or transferred, whatever, over to SmackDown if that's where Jacob Fatu stays. Because we've seen Bronson Reed and Strowman have the monster matches like I mentioned, but I think another person to do that with is Bronson Reed, who is on the up and coming. You know what? If you want Fatu to be that heel, Bronson Reed gets really big reactions. He could stay as a heel or a tweener, kind of like a Braun Breaker, where Breaker is kind of like, he's whatever you want him to be that week. He can be a little bit more of a face or a heel, depending on the opponent. I think you could do that with Bronson Reed and Jacob Fatu and do those parking lot brawls and smashing each other through stuff. It'd be fun. And the last big opponent I have on my list, and I mean, honestly, you could go through like the whole roster and be like, who's this person? Who's this person? We give you a couple of names and then you dish in your names. Comments below. You also do Matt a favor here. Hi, you hit subscribe. It's somewhere in here because it helps us grow and that would mean a lot. The other person I got on my list is John Cena. Now, you could do something cool. I'm just thinking right now. It's late as I'm recording this. My brain's all over the place. What if it's I was gonna say Jin Cena. It's close enough. John Cena versus Fatu at WrestleMania 41. Doesn't make too much sense because Cena's going for the record-breaking thing. But what if he got distracted and he went over to SmackDown and he found Jacob Fatu? That could be a lot of fun. It's almost like Solo when he went up against Cena and he just spiked him like crazy. And as I think about it, I'm like, well, no, I mean, Cena's gonna be doing his WrestleMania stuff, probably around the title is my guess. But that could be like a crown jewel fight. Cena's here for the rest of the year. At some point, I wanna see Fatu and Cena. That could be a SummerSlam match, a crown jewel match, Survivor Series. And if you could get Fatu over on Cena, that could do a lot as well. Especially if Cena's just coming off of like having the WWE Championship. Kind of hope he does. Okay, speaking of championships, what do we see with Jacob Fatu in any of the WWE Championships? Do you think he's sticking around with his bloodline and he picks up the tag team titles? I personally say nah. I don't think he does that at all. See, the thing is, like, you could super shoot him to world title, WWE title, and you know what? I'd be all here for it. I think it'd be great. It'd be refreshing. It's a new person at the top, but that ain't gonna happen. Could I see him with the Intercontinental or the US title? Yes. And I think that once Fatu has some really good, well-established feuds, maybe with like, you know, LA Knight and he goes through Braun Strowman and beats up Solo, and he's done with Solo in that whole chapter. In the later half of 2025, I could see him picking up, if he's on SmackDown, pick up the US title off an LA Knight or anybody else that's holding it in the mid card and let him run with it with a dominant run for several months. I mean, you could get to WrestleMania against Roman Reigns the following year. Fatu could be the US champion. Doesn't have to be a US title match, and WWE does whatever with these rules. But if you have a Jacob Fatu who dominates throughout the year, and his kind of end result is like he gets a title out of the whole thing, then he could go on a nice nasty title run, and then you could feed him new challengers that are going to be in that mid-card division. Or he gets drafted over to like Monday Night Raw. See, the thing is, like, I was gonna say like WWE Championship, but like ain't nobody touching Cody's title. It's like Cody and Roman, Drew and Punk. Like that's who I think is up in there. Maybe Cena. So on the world title side, it's kind of like you can do a lot of different stuff. And the world title would be very interesting if they did a draft at some point or trade, because they just mix it up whenever they feel like it. And then you have Fatu go over to Raw and pick up the world title in the later half of the year. Fatu versus CM Punk for the world title. Fatu versus Seth. Kevin Owens can always be slid into those bloodline storylines for his hatred for the bloodline. The great thing about all of this is that there's so many different stories that the characters are involved with the bloodline or have been, and they have crossed with Jacob Fatu at some point, or they just don't like the bloodline. I'm thinking like Sami Zayn. You can fight Jacob Fatu easily, and you can very quickly tell a story that makes sense based on all the history. So who's on your list? Who did I leave out? Who did you want to see? I know there's Drew McIntyre and Punk and a whole bunch of other people, but I really think it's going to be a breakout year for Jacob Fatu in 2025. Now we talked about John Cena. Maybe he's going to pick up that WWE Championship at WrestleMania. We just don't know. But click this video right here, guys, because we're talking about Cena and his kind of final year in WWE. Have a great day. See ya.